The night was quiet. John sat alone in his small wooden house at the edge of town. Outside, the wind moved through the trees, making soft whispers in the dark. John was used to silence. He had no family, no visitors, only books, old tools, and the sound of the clock ticking on his wall. But that night, something broke the silence. A knock. Soft at first, almost too soft to hear. John froze. It was midnight. No one ever came here this late. He stood listening again. Another knock. Louder this time. Weak, desperate, his heart beat faster. He walked slowly to the door, his hand shaking just a little. When he opened it, the cold air rushed inside. But what he saw made him forget the cold. A woman stood there. Not human. Her skin glowed faint silver under the moonlight. Her large black eyes looked heavy with fear. She was trembling, holding something close to her chest. It was a baby. The baby's skin was pale blue, shining faintly like water. Its small chest rose and fell in uneven breaths. The sound was painful, like someone drowning. The woman looked straight into John's eyes. Her voice was soft, broken, almost a whisper. "Help. Please." Before John could ask anything, her knees gave way. She fell forward, collapsing on the ground. John rushed to catch her, almost dropping the baby. The child let out a weak cry, a sound that didn't belong to Earth. For a moment, John stood there, stunned. He had seen strange lights in the sky before, stories on the news about objects that governments could not explain. But never had he thought something would land on his doorstep. He looked down at the woman. Her breathing was shallow. She looked helpless, fragile, and yet she had walked all this way to his door. Why, John carried them both inside, his mind racing. He placed the baby gently on a blanket and dragged the woman to the couch. He grabbed water, pressed it to her lips. She drank only a little, then shook her head weakly. The baby cried again. The sound was sharper now, struggling. John bent down, touched its chest. The breathing was wrong, too heavy, too slow. The small body shivered as if it could not survive Earth's air. The woman forced her eyes open. She reached for John's hand with surprising strength. Her lips moved. "They will come," she whispered. "Protect him." And then her hand fell limp. She was unconscious. John felt his chest tighten. Protect him? Protect the baby? From who? From what? He stared at the strange child. Its eyes opened for a moment. Large, glowing faintly, filled with tears. The baby looked at him as if it knew, as if it was begging him to keep it alive. John took a step back, running his hands through his hair. He was just a mechanic, a man who fixed broken machines in town. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a doctor. He wasn't a hero, but the knock on his door had chosen him. The baby coughed again, a sound that cut deep into his chest. John felt something rise inside him, a decision forming before he could stop it. "No," he whispered to himself. "I can't leave you like this." He went to his workshop in the back room, searching for tools, wires, and small machines he had collected over the years. His mind turned fast. If the child couldn't breathe Earth air, maybe he could make something. Something to help. But even as he thought of machines and tools, fear pressed on him. Who were they? The woman's words echoed in his ears. "They will come." John walked to the window and pulled the curtain slightly. Outside, the night looked normal. The quiet street, the trees moving with the wind. But in the distance, far above the hills, he thought he saw something. Faint lights moving in the sky, too steady, too sharp to be stars. His heart thudded. If someone was coming, they would look for her. They would look for the baby, and now they might come for him too. He turned back. The alien mother lay still, breathing shallow. The baby cried softly, its tiny hand reaching into the air. Reaching toward him, John knelt beside it. He let the small hand grip his finger. For a moment, human and alien touched, fragile and real. The baby's cry softened as if comforted by his presence. Something in John's heart shifted. He had lost his own family years ago. The silence in his life had been heavy, endless. But now in his home was life. Strange life. Fragile life. A mother and child who had no one else. The choice was in front of him. He could close the door, pretend none of this had happened, or he could stand against whatever was coming. He looked again at the small blue child holding his finger. "I don't know why you came to me," he said quietly. "But I'll protect you." The baby's chest rose and fell again, uneven but alive. Outside, the lights in the sky grew brighter. The hunters were coming, and John's life would never be the same. The night felt heavier than before. Inside John's small house, the ticking clock and the faint cries of the alien baby mixed together. He had never imagined such a night, one where he, an ordinary human, would be holding something not from Earth. The alien mother still lay on the couch, her skin pale and her breathing weak. John had covered her with an old blanket, but it did little. Her strength was gone. Every few minutes she twitched, her lips moving as if she wanted to speak, but no words came. The baby was different. Its eyes glowed softly like two small stars. Its tiny body shook each time it tried to breathe. John knelt beside it, fear growing in his chest. The child was fighting for air. John pressed his ear close. The sound was strange, wet, harsh, uneven. Almost like a machine breaking down. The baby's chest rose slowly, then stopped for a moment, then struggled again. Panic grew inside him. If something was not done soon, the child would not survive. John touched the mother's hand, trying to wake her. "What do I do?" he whispered. "How do I help him?" Her eyes fluttered open. She looked at him, her lips trembling. In her broken English, she whispered only a few words. "His lungs, too weak, not for this air." John froze. The baby could not survive Earth's atmosphere. His lungs were too weak to handle it. The mother's eyes filled with tears. She looked at her child as if it was already slipping away. Her hand gripped John's arm tightly. "Save him." Then her eyes rolled back and she lost consciousness again. John sat back, shaking. His mind raced. How could he save a child that wasn't even human? He was no doctor, no scientist. Just a man with tools and spare parts in a dusty workshop. But he had promised. John carried the baby into the back room. The old workshop smelled of oil and metal. Machines lay broken on the shelves. He placed the child gently on a soft towel and sat down, thinking hard. Machines he could fix. Engines, wires, circuits, these were things he understood. But this was a living creature, fragile, dying. The baby let out a weak cough, its small hands clawing at the air. John felt a deep ache in his chest. He had once held his own child like this years ago. A child he lost too soon. The memory burned inside him, mixing pain with determination. "No," he said softly. "I won't lose another." He began to search his shelves. Old oxygen tanks. A broken air filter from a car. Plastic tubes. He touched them one by one, his brain working fast. If he could build something that filtered Earth's air into something gentler, something the baby's weak lungs could accept, maybe, just maybe, it would live. But time was not on his side. He heard a sound outside. A distant hum. He froze. It was faint but steady. Not the wind. Not a car. Something else. He ran to the window and looked out. Far in the distance, above the hills, small lights moved across the sky. Not like stars. Not like planes. They moved too smoothly, too controlled. His stomach tightened. "They will come." The mother's words echoed in his mind. John shut the curtain quickly. He hurried back to the baby, who coughed again, weaker this time. Its chest was barely moving now. He picked the child up, holding it close to his chest. Its skin was cold, its breath faint. The baby opened its glowing eyes for a second and looked at him. There was no language, no words, but John felt it clearly. The baby was asking him to fight for its life. John whispered, "You're not dying. Not here. Not tonight." He placed the baby back on the towel and began pulling apart machines. He cut wires, opened the oxygen tank, tried to build a small chamber using plastic and filters. His hands worked fast, guided by instinct more than knowledge. Every few minutes, he looked at the baby, afraid it would stop breathing before he finished. Sweat ran down his face. His heart pounded, but in the middle of his work, a strange sound filled the house. Bang. John froze. His head snapped toward the front door. Another bang. Someone or something was knocking, not gentle like before. Loud. Demanding. John's blood ran cold. He grabbed the baby quickly, hiding it under his coat. He looked toward the couch. The mother was still unconscious. She could not help. Bang, bang, bang. The door shook. Whoever was outside was not human. He could feel it in his bones. John's mind spun. He was not ready. The machine for the baby was not finished. The mother was too weak. And now danger had arrived. He backed slowly into the workshop, holding the baby close. His eyes searched for something. A weapon, a tool, anything to defend them. The baby coughed again, weak and fragile, reminding him what was truly at stake. John whispered, "Hold on. Just hold on." The banging stopped. Silence. Then, through the window, a faint glow spread across the yard. A shadow moved slowly past the curtain. John pressed his back against the wall, clutching the baby. His breath came fast. His heart thundered. They were here. And the secret of the alien baby's weak lungs was only the beginning of the fight. The banging on the door stopped, but the silence after was worse. John stood frozen in the workshop, the alien baby pressed against his chest. His ears strained for any sound. The only noise was the baby's uneven breaths, shallow and painful. He whispered to himself, "They found us." The alien mother still lay unconscious in the living room. Her chest rose and fell weakly, but she could not move. John was alone. Outside, the glow of strange light slid across his walls through the cracks in the curtains. They were searching. Whoever they were, they knew exactly where to look. John's heart pounded. He had no weapons, no plan. Only his workshop. A half-built machine for the baby's lungs and his courage. The baby let out a small cough, louder than before. John flinched, pulling the child closer as if his arms could protect it from everything. A shadow moved across the window. Tall, inhuman. John shut his eyes for a second. "Think, John, think." He looked around the room. On the workbench lay wires, plastic tubes, an oxygen tank with only half a charge, and a broken air filter from a car. His invention was far from ready, but maybe he didn't need it finished right now. Maybe he just needed to buy time. John grabbed the pieces, quickly connecting them with shaking hands. He jammed one end of a tube into the oxygen tank, the other into a small plastic mask he had cut from scraps. It wasn't perfect, but maybe it would help the child breathe a little easier. He pressed the mask gently over the baby's face. The soft hiss of oxygen filled the air. The baby's chest rose smoother than before. The sound of coughing faded. Relief rushed through John. The child was still fragile but alive. Then, footsteps. Slow, heavy footsteps circled the house. The floorboards under John's feet creaked as he stepped back, holding the child tight. His body pressed against the wall. The footsteps stopped outside the front door. Silence. Then came a voice. Low, metallic, not human. "Give the child." John's blood ran cold. The voice was not angry. It was worse, calm, certain, like it already knew the answer. The baby whimpered softly. John's grip tightened. "Not a chance," he whispered under his breath. The door shook as something pressed against it. Not knocking this time, pushing, testing. The wood creaked. John ran to the couch. He shook the alien mother's shoulder. "Wake up, please, wake up." Her eyes opened slightly. She looked at him, then at the baby in his arms. Weakly, she shook her head. "Hide." "Him?" She tried to sit, but pain forced her back down. She whispered with all the strength she had left. "They kill weak ones. My baby, too weak. Law says he must die. That is why I came here." John stared at her, shocked. A law that demanded a child's death just because it was weak? His stomach turned. He whispered fiercely, "Not while I'm alive." The door cracked loudly. Splinters of wood flew as something slammed into it. John had only seconds. He ran to the basement door. It was small, hidden behind shelves. He pushed the shelves aside, yanked the door open, and carried the baby down into the dark. The air was damp, smelling of earth and rust. He laid the child in a corner, covering it with cloth to hide the glow of its skin. The footsteps above moved through the living room now. The intruders were inside. John's pulse hammered in his ears. He grabbed an old metal pipe from the wall, holding it like a weapon. His hands were sweaty, but his eyes were sharp. Voices echoed upstairs, speaking in a strange language, sharp and mechanical. Then in English again, "The mother is here." "The child." "Near." The baby shifted under the cloth, letting out a soft whimper. John crouched low, praying they hadn't heard, but the footsteps came closer, toward the basement door. John gritted his teeth, raising the pipe. His whole body was shaking, but he refused to back down. "If you want him," he muttered, "you'll have to go through me." The door creaked open. Light spilled down the stairs. A tall figure stepped halfway down. John saw it clearly now. Its skin was dark and metallic, its head too long for a human, its arms covered in armor-like plates. Its eyes glowed white. The hunter. It tilted its head, scanning the room. Its gaze landed on John. "You hide him. You break the law, human. You will suffer." John's mouth was dry, but he forced himself to speak. He's just a baby. He deserves to live. The hunter's eyes narrowed. Weakness must end. The law is clear. John felt something burn inside him, anger. He stepped forward, pipe ready. Not in my house. Not tonight. The hunter moved faster than John expected. In one motion it lunged down the stairs. John swung the pipe with all his strength. The metal rang loudly as it struck the hunter's head. Sparks flew, but the creature barely flinched. John stumbled back. The hunter raised a clawed hand to strike, and then the baby cried out from under the cloth. A strange sound, high-pitched, not like before. A pulse of blue light shot across the basement, filling the air with energy. The hunter froze, its glowing eyes flickering. John looked at the baby, stunned. The child had power, hidden, untrained, but real. The hunter hissed, stepping back. The child, dangerous. John held his pipe tighter, standing between the creature and the baby. His voice shook, but his will was firm. Dangerous or not, he's mine to protect. The hunter stared for a long moment. Then it turned, retreating up the stairs, leaving a trail of glowing marks on the wood. John's body sagged with exhaustion. He rushed to the baby, lifting it gently. Its breathing was steady again, though its glow dimmed. Whatever power it released had drained it. Above, the sound of more footsteps shook the house. The hunters weren't finished. John whispered to the child, "We have to move now." The chase had only begun. The house was no longer a safe place. Above the basement, John could hear footsteps moving through the rooms. Heavy, slow, more than one. The hunters had not left. They were searching, breaking furniture, pulling doors open. The sound of wood cracking echoed through the house. John stood in the basement, his back pressed to the wall, the alien baby in his arms. The child's breathing was still weak, but steady thanks to the small oxygen mask he had built. The soft hiss of air filled the silence between the hunters' movements. The alien mother was still upstairs. Too weak to escape, too weak to fight. John's chest tightened. He could not abandon her, but the hunters were many, and he was only one man. The baby's glowing eyes blinked open, staring at him. Innocent. Fragile. Trusting. John felt the weight of that gaze deep inside his chest. He had a choice. He could run now. Take the baby through the basement door that led outside. Vanish into the woods before the hunters searched below. The child might live, but the mother would be left behind, taken or killed, or he could stay. Fight. Protect them both. Risk everything, John whispered to himself. What do I do? His voice cracked under the pressure. The footsteps above grew louder. One of the hunters called out, its voice cold and sharp. The law cannot be broken. The weak one must die. Hand him over, human. John clenched his jaw. He wanted to scream at them. He wanted to ask how they could call themselves intelligent while killing children. But his throat felt dry. His heart hammered in his ears. He thought of his past. His own child lost years ago. The silence that had filled his life since then. The nights where he wished he had done more, been more. He remembered the helplessness that had never left him. Now here was another child. Not human, but alive. Real. And asking him for protection without words. John's decision burned through him like fire. He would not fail this time. He carried the baby back up the stairs, each step careful, silent. When he reached the top, he peeked through the crack of the basement door. 2 hunters stood in the living room. Their tall armored bodies glowed faintly in the dark. Between them, the alien mother lay weak on the couch, her eyes half open. One of the hunters bent down, examining her. She has broken the law. Her bloodline must end. The mother's lips trembled. With the last of her strength, she whispered, "No, my child lives. He will live." The hunter raised a weapon, long, silver, glowing at the tip. John's body moved before his mind could catch up. He burst through the door, pipe in one hand, baby in the other. "Stop!" he shouted. The hunters turned, surprised. Their glowing eyes fixed on him. One of them hissed, "The human protects the weak one." John's voice shook, but his will was strong. "That's right. He's just a baby. You want him? You'll have to take me first." The hunters stepped closer, weapons humming with light. John backed toward the workshop, heart pounding, mind racing. He had no real weapons. Only traps, machines, his own wits. He set the baby down gently in a corner, whispering, "Stay quiet. Please." Then he grabbed wires from the bench, connecting them fast. Sparks flew as he jammed the wires into an old car battery. He pulled a lever, and the floor lamp beside him crackled, bursting with light. Electricity surged through the wires. The hunters paused, watching him. John pointed the live wire at them. His hands trembled, but his voice was sharp. "One step closer and I fry you." The hunters tilted their heads, almost amused. "Primitive, weak." John forced a grin. "Then let's see how primitive fire feels on your metal skin." For a moment, the room held its breath. The mother lay weak but watching. The baby breathed softly in the corner. The hunters stared at John. Finally, one of them spoke. "You are foolish, human, but brave. You cannot change the law. The weak must end. If you fight us, your world will suffer." John felt a chill. The law. Always the law. How many children had died because of it? How many mothers had been forced to hand their babies over to these armored monsters? He looked at the baby again. Its eyes glowed faintly, filled with trust. Then he looked at the mother, who tried to lift her head, whispering, "Save him." John made his choice. He stepped forward, sparks flying from the wire in his hand. His voice was clear, strong, filled with fire. "Then let your law break here. In this house tonight." The hunters raised their weapons. The baby whimpered softly, the sound like a prayer in the dark. And in that moment, John knew there was no turning back. He would protect them both, no matter the cost. The battle for the child's life had begun. The night was breaking into dawn, but John had no sense of time. Inside the workshop, sparks flew, tools clattered, and the air smelled of burning metal. John worked like a man possessed. His hands were cut, his clothes covered in grease, but his focus never wavered. The alien baby lay in a small box padded with blankets. The oxygen mask John had made hissed softly, feeding the child air. The baby's breathing was smoother now, but every few minutes it coughed weakly, reminding him how fragile its life was. The alien mother watched from the couch. She was too weak to stand, but her eyes followed John's every move. Sometimes she whispered words in her own language, sometimes in broken English. The only clear thing she said again and again was, "Save him." John glanced at her, nodding. "I will. I promise." He had promised before, but now the weight of that promise was heavy. If he failed, the child would die. If he succeeded, the hunters would come back for him. But quitting was not in him anymore. He wiped sweat from his forehead, then studied the pieces in front of him. A broken car filter, a cracked water pump, plastic tubing, wires stripped bare, an old power supply from his workshop. To anyone else it was just trash, but to John they were hope, he muttered to himself, thinking aloud. "The lungs are too weak. They can't handle Earth's air. But if I filter it, slow it down, make it gentle." His hands moved quickly. He built a small chamber, sealing the edges with tape and melted plastic. He connected the filter to the tubing, then to the oxygen tank. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't beautiful. But it was something. The baby coughed again, louder this time. John's chest tightened. He lifted the fragile child and placed the mask from the chamber over its face. The machine hummed faintly, the filter vibrating. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the baby took a slow, steady breath. Another. And another. John let out a long breath of relief. His eyes burned with tears he hadn't expected. "It's working," he whispered. "It's actually working." The mother's weak lips curled into the smallest of smiles. She whispered, "Hope." But the relief didn't last long. Outside, through the cracks of the boarded windows, John saw faint light sweeping across the woods. The hunters had not given up. They were searching methodically, scanning the ground, moving closer each hour. John's stomach knotted. He didn't have much time. He turned back to the baby, watching the tiny chest rise and fall inside the chamber. The invention was working, but not for long. The oxygen tank was nearly empty, and the filter was already clogging. He needed something better, something that could last. His eyes scanned the workshop again. Old car batteries, a fan motor, copper wiring. If he could build a portable device, maybe he could keep the baby alive even while running. He pushed himself harder, faster. His fingers ached, but he kept twisting wires, shaping metal, soldering parts. He remembered nights fixing cars with his father when he was young. Remembered building toy machines for his own child. Those memories cut him, but they also gave him strength. Every clang of his hammer was mixed with the sound of hunters outside. They were closer now. Shadows passed by the windows. The low hum of their strange machines vibrated through the walls. John's heart raced, but he refused to stop. At last, after hours that felt like days, he held up a rough but solid device. A small breathing unit with straps, wires, and a glowing chamber in the center. He had built an artificial lung, crude but alive with possibility. He carried it to the baby, carefully lifting the fragile child. The alien mother watched, her wide eyes filled with fear and hope. John slipped the mask over the baby's face and flipped the switch. The chamber glowed softly. Air moved through the filter into the child's lungs. The baby inhaled deeply. For the first time, it sounded strong. No coughing. No choking. Just clean, steady breath. John's throat tightened. He laughed softly, almost in disbelief. "You're breathing. You're really breathing." The baby's glowing eyes opened, staring at him. They blinked once, calm and clear. For a moment, the bond between them felt unbreakable. The mother whispered with tears in her eyes, "You gave him life." John shook his head. "No, he gave me a reason." But there was no time to celebrate. A sudden crash shook the house. The front door exploded inward. Splinters flew across the room. John grabbed the baby instinctively, clutching the breathing device against its chest. The hunters had returned. Tall, armored figures stepped into the room. Their glowing eyes scanned everything at once. Weapons buzzed with deadly light. One of them spoke in its cold metallic voice. "You defy the law. You build for the weak. You must be punished." John's hands shook, but he stepped forward, the baby in his arms. His voice was low, fierce, unbroken. "Punish me if you want. But this child lives. No law is stronger than that." The hunters raised their weapons, light filling the room. The alien mother gasped, her voice breaking as she tried to rise. John held the child close, the machine humming softly between them. His eyes narrowed. His mind sharpened. He was ready. Whatever came next, he would fight. The hunters filled the doorway like shadows of death. Their tall, armored bodies glowed faintly in the half-light of dawn. Their white eyes burned as they scanned the small house. The floorboards creaked under their heavy steps. John stood in the center of the room, the alien baby in his arms, the breathing device strapped to its chest. The machine hummed softly, giving the child life. Behind him, the alien mother tried to sit up, but she was too weak. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Protect him." The leading hunter stepped forward, weapon glowing at its tip. Its voice was cold, metallic, without mercy. "The law is clear. The weak one must die. You humans stand in the way. You will be destroyed." John's grip tightened around the baby. His heart thundered, but his voice came sharp and strong. "Law or no law, this child lives. You'll have to kill me first." The hunters tilted their heads, almost amused. "So be it." The first strike came fast. A bolt of searing light shot from the hunter's weapon. John dove to the floor, clutching the baby tight. The beam smashed into the wall, wood and stone exploding into dust. The alien mother cried out weakly, shielding her face from the blast. John scrambled to his feet, grabbing a wrench from the workbench with his free hand. He swung it hard as the nearest hunter stepped closer. The wrench struck the armor with a sharp clang. Sparks flew, but the creature barely flinched. The hunter raised its arm to strike him down. John acted on instinct. He slammed his fist on the car battery wired to his traps. A surge of electricity shot through the floor, racing up the hunter's legs. The creature jerked violently, sparks bursting from its armor. It stumbled back, letting out a metallic hiss. John's chest heaved. "Primitive, huh?" he spat. "Guess primitive still hurts." The baby whimpered, clutching his shirt. John kissed the child's head quickly, then turned to face the other hunters. His eyes darted around the room. He had no guns, no soldiers at his back. Only tools, wires, and his will to fight. Another hunter swung its blade-like arm at him. John ducked, the strike slicing through the table instead, splintering wood everywhere. He shoved the table forward, knocking the hunter off balance for a moment. The leader hissed, "You cannot win, human. Protecting the weak will only bring ruin." John's voice shook, but his words cut like steel. "Where I come from, we don't kill babies because they're weak. We fight for them. That's what makes us human." The hunters paused for the briefest moment. It was as if they couldn't understand him. To them, weakness was shame. But to John, weakness was what made life worth defending. The baby coughed inside the breathing mask. The sound echoed in the tense room. John looked down, saw the child's small glowing eyes staring up at him. The sight filled him with a strength he didn't know he had. He whispered, "I won't let them take you." The hunters moved again. 3 of them now, closing in from every side. Their weapons glowed brighter, charging for a final strike. John backed up toward the basement door. His mind raced. He needed one last move. Something to end this. He looked at the wires still sparking from the car battery. He looked at the leaking gas canister he had used earlier for his welding torch. And suddenly an idea sparked in his mind. Risky. Dangerous. But it might work. John set the baby gently in the corner behind a heavy toolbox. He whispered, "Stay quiet, little one. Just for a moment." Then he grabbed the leaking canister, dragging it into the center of the room. The hunters watched him, confused. John lit the welding torch in his other hand. The small flame flickered dangerously close to the stream of gas filling the air. The leader tilted its head. "What are you doing, human?" John's eyes blazed with fire, showing you how dangerous the weak can be when they're pushed too far. He dropped the torch. The explosion shook the house like thunder. Flames roared through the workshop, sending hunters crashing backward into the walls. Their armor sparked and cracked under the blast. The windows shattered. The roof trembled. John threw himself over the baby, shielding it with his body. Heat seared his skin, dust filled his lungs, but he held on. When the smoke cleared, the room was chaos. 2 hunters lay broken on the floor, their armor split open, sparks dying in their chests. The leader staggered, damaged but still standing. It pointed its weapon at John, rage burning in its glowing eyes. "You cannot protect him forever. More will come. The law cannot be broken." John stood, his body shaking, burns on his arms, blood on his face. But his grip on the pipe in his hand was steady. He lifted the baby, who was still breathing strong inside the device. His voice was rough but firm. "Then let them come. This child is under my protection now, and I don't care about your law," the hunter hissed, retreating into the smoke. Its final words echoed through the burning house. "We will return, and when we do, no human will be safe." Then it vanished into the shadows, leaving destruction behind. John sank to his knees, holding the baby close. The alien mother, still weak but alive, whispered through tears, "You stood against them. You fought for us." John looked at her, then at the child breathing softly against his chest. His voice was soft but filled with unshakable resolve. "They're not taking him, not now. Not ever." The house was half in ruins. Flames licked the walls. The hunters were gone for now. But John knew this was only the beginning. The fight was far from over. The house was quiet again, but it was no longer whole. Half the roof was gone. The walls were cracked and blackened from fire. Smoke curled lazily into the pale morning sky. Broken wood and twisted metal littered the floor. John stood in the middle of the wreckage, his arms wrapped tightly around the alien baby. The small breathing machine on its chest hummed steadily, glowing faintly. The baby's chest rose and fell with calm, even breaths. For the first time since that terrible night, it was not struggling. John felt a heavy weight lift from his chest. He closed his eyes for a moment, whispering to the child, "You're safe. For now." On the couch, the alien mother stirred weakly. Her eyes opened, and for the first time, they were not full of fear. She saw her child breathing peacefully and let out a broken sob. Tears slipped down her silver skin. "You did it," she whispered. "You saved him." John knelt beside her, still holding the baby. His face was tired, his hands burned and bruised, but his eyes were steady. "I only gave him a chance. The rest is up to him." The mother tried to sit, wincing from pain. She touched John's hand gently. Her voice was soft but filled with gratitude. "Where I come from, weak ones are not allowed to live. The law says they are useless. But you gave him breath. You gave him hope. You broke the law of stars with the heart of a human." John swallowed hard, his throat tight. He wasn't a soldier, a leader, or a hero. He was just a man who fixed broken things. But now he had fixed something no machine could compare to. He had fixed a future for a child who would have been lost. Still, the victory felt fragile. He looked toward the broken doorway. The hunter's threat still echoed in his ears. "We will return." His jaw tightened. He knew they would come back. Maybe not tonight, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. And next time they would bring more. The baby whimpered softly, reaching its small glowing hand toward John's face. John smiled faintly, letting the tiny fingers curl around his finger. The touch was warm, full of trust. "You don't even know what's ahead of you," John murmured, "but I'll stand with you. No matter what comes." The sun began to rise, casting golden light through the smoke. For a moment it painted the ruined house in warmth. as if the world itself was offering comfort after the storm. John carried the baby outside. The air was cool and fresh. Birds sang in the distance, unaware of the battle that had just taken place. The mother followed slowly, leaning on the doorframe for support. She watched her child breathe the filtered air and smiled through her tears. For a brief moment, it felt like peace, but peace was fragile. Far above, in the pale morning sky, John noticed a faint flicker of light. Not the sun, not a star, a ship, large and silent, moving slowly beyond the clouds. His chest tightened. The hunters were gone, but the galaxy was watching. The mother followed his gaze. Her expression turned grim. They will not forgive. They will come again. More hunters, stronger. They will not stop until the law is fulfilled. John looked at her, then at the child in his arms. The baby's eyes glowed softly, staring up at him as if asking him a question. He answered quietly, firmly. Then we'll be ready. He turned back toward the broken house. He saw tools scattered, machines shattered, wires melted, but he also saw potential. He could rebuild not just the house, but something greater. He could prepare. The baby shifted in his arms, letting out a small sound, not a cough, but a clear, soft breath. It was life, fragile but strong. The sound made John's heart swell with something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. The mother's weak voice broke the silence. Why do you fight for us, human? We are not your kind. You risked your life, your home, everything. John thought for a moment, then answered simply, because life is life. Doesn't matter where it comes from. No law has the right to take that away. The mother closed her eyes, whispering something in her own language. The word carried weight, like a blessing. John didn't understand it fully, but he felt its meaning. She was calling him protector. The sun climbed higher. The smoke faded into the sky. The day had begun, but John knew this was not an ending. It was only the first step. He looked at the horizon, holding the child close. They think I'm just a human, weak, primitive, but they'll learn. We build, we protect, we fight back. The baby's breathing device hummed gently, steady as a heartbeat. And as the light of the new dawn spread across the earth, John knew one truth with absolute certainty. This child would live, and no galactic law could stop it.